The West Ham Massive are pleased to support Iron Supporting Food Banks. They are a group of West Ham fans and friends inspired by the work of other football food banks around the country. They collect food and cash donations for a Newham food bank in Beckton, who supplies 7 distribution centres in the borough 7 days a week and hand out several hundred 3-day emergency food packs every month to families in need. They are also working with other groups to improve conditions for vulnerable adults and children in the Newham community. You can help by making a donation to their Just Giving page. You will find the link to this in the description section of the video details in this stream. Thanks for your support. Come on, you Irons. And we're live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to nearly did it there, to the West Ham Massive. I nearly made a Freudian slip there. That was embarrassing. As always, guys, please don't forget to like, comment on, and share this stream to your social media platforms, and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. And make sure you hit the bell icon for alerts of new content. As always, we thank you very much indeed for your support in this matter. We are here to discuss match day 10 of 38 in the Premier League. West Ham United 0, Everton 1 at the London Stadium. And a little bit of due diligence, if adult language offends. As always, you might want to sort of go and do something else because we might let the occasional swear word slip out. It's quite likely you might hear it in actual fact. Joining me today is my younger brother, Ben. How are you, sir?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, I'm all right. A bit,
yes.
It's one of those, mate. When it, obviously keen to get this channel up and running, but I think unfortunately, what goes with the territory of that is you've got to come and do a review of something that you wish you didn't really have to chew over again, quite frankly. No. But I suppose it comes with the territory.
It does indeed. It does indeed. Let's get down to it, Ben. So, obviously, an hour before kickoff, we obviously had the starting 11 that was announced. David Moyes announced it, and well, I mean, there was a couple of surprises from my perspective. I have to say. I mean, I thought that because obviously Kudus started in the Europa League game a couple of days earlier, I thought, well, that's probably a clue that it'll be Antonio starting up top and Kudus won't be involved. Well, not only did Antonio start, but so did Kudus, which was a little bit of a curveball. Thomas Souček was the guy that dropped out. Obviously, we knew that Emerson wasn't going to make it for the 5th yellow card that he picked up. So in came Aaron Cresswell at left back. But what did you make of the starting 11?
I think, broadly speaking, mate, I was before the game. I was actually quite excited by the lineup and thinking, but it seemed quite exciting. Across the board, I thought, I was pleased that Cresswell got the nod, and actually, I think Cresswell played okay. Thought he done well. I think for me, it did surprise me a little bit. I don't know if it surprised me. I've been thinking Antonio hasn't been doing it, like we've said on probably for the last month or so. So, and the fact that Souček has, Souček's been playing well and nicked a few goals this season. So I was a bit surprised. Souček was the lad that made way, but at the end of the day, it's a squad game, and we've got a lot of games coming up. Souček has played a lot of football, so starting 11 wise, I was actually quite looking forward to the game and how we'd perform.
Yeah, well, that optimism. I mean, we started. I don't know, sort of like how much you saw of the match yourself, Ben. I mean, me
I
obviously, I
see
was.
every minute of it.
Oh well, yeah. You
Mm.
have my sympathies. However, having said that, I mean, I don't know about you. The first half started. I thought that for the first 10, 15 minutes there or thereabouts, we started quite brightly, in my opinion. How did you see the first half?
I think, look, I want to try and be positive somehow. Um, I mean, we're on the same WhatsApp group, Rob, and a few of the lads said, "Oh, we started well." You know, the way we started, Rob, is the absolute minimum that I would expect at
Mm,
home against Everton. You know, that I don't think we started particularly well. I think that is, like I say, that's the minimum standard that I'd expect at home against a team that is a relegation threatened team.
mm.
So it was okay. Um, I think, you know, across the board, I just felt like the whole game, the passing was so slow, it was ridiculous. Yeah, to the extent where I'm having little, you know, I've got things going on in my head like, is the grass too long? Like honestly, I'm thinking that's what it looked like to me, Rob. That you know, we get the ball and you know, Zuma might pass it, Ward Prowse might pass it. It looked slow and pedestrian. I generally thought the first half was, you know, average at best.
Yeah, yeah. As I say, I think that we started brightly. First 15 minutes, give or take. It started to sort of fall apart a little bit after that for me. I agree with what you're saying. Is that for all the possession that we had in the first half and in the match more broadly speaking, which Mark actually sort of touches on in his next comment, a lot of it was sort of like possession for possession's sake, in my view. It's quite frustrating to watch, and we got obviously to half time 0-0. And I don't know about you, but I mean the sort of like the pattern of usually how this has gone in recent games is that we get to half time. David Moyes will have a little bit of a sort of like a pep talk, and it seems to sort of like garner is very shortly into the second half we concede a goal. Well, lo and behold, 6 minutes into the second half, what happens? Don't you know it? Dominic Calvert-Lewin pops up, and I don't know about you. Now, I mean, for me, I think that the start of it for me, right, was Branthwaite making an interception, and Antonio went down like a sack of shit, right? And I sit there and I go, this is a guy that is quite physically imposing, and he went down so easily. I just couldn't believe it. And then there was a little bit of an interchange between Calvert-Lewin and Jack Harrison on the edge of our penalty box. It drops back down to Calvert-Lewin. He's fed in from Harrison. He's sort of like he's got both Zuma and Aguirre in close proximity to him, but he gets away from them both so easily. He turns and gets this shot away. Not quite sure if the goalkeeper could or should have done better, but even so, it was a precise shot. He made the central defenders look like a pair of mugs, as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, I think going back a little bit further, Rob, it got. I think it stemmed. It really stemmed from memory. I think Areola had a bit of a rash clearance, and then somehow it's come to. So I think it come to Kufau. You know, in fairness to Antonio, I'll be a little bit fair to him, even though I think he was absolutely shocking. I think the ball up to him from Kufau, you know, he's pinged it him at pace, and we're on like on the halfway line. It was just, it was a bit, you know, it was a difficult ball for Antonio to do an awful lot with. But actually, I personally think man of the match was the young Everton centre half, Branthwaite, who quite frankly, physically, absolutely dominated Antonio. And there was no more, you know, prime example of that than the goal. That he's dived in ahead of him, won the ball, fed it in. From an Everton point of view, it's quite a tidy little goal. From our point of view, yeah, like you say, Rob, between Agurd and Zuma, they're not communicating with each other because they've kind of got in each other's way, and Calvert-Lewin's just took a nice little touch and buried it in the bottom corner. And to be honest, mate, you obviously didn't see it. There was quite an interesting stat that they put up when that happened. Was that I think, in terms of goals conceded in the first half, we're I think we're second in terms of least goals conceded in the first half, and then we're it might be 19th for the amount of goals conceded in the second half, which it seems too much of a stark contrast just to be a coincidence.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I don't know if there's something that's got into the players' heads, or I think that might be. I mean, this wasn't the case yesterday, but in terms of just sitting back, do you get what I mean? That that might show that we soak up the pressure, but at some point we can't soak it up the whole game, and then we end up conceding 2, 3, or 4. I mean, not yesterday, but across the course of the season.
Who do you blame for this? I mean, there's a case to be made that obviously when the players cross the white line, they're responsible for their actions. But at the end of the day, it's the manager that sets the tone. It's the manager that selects the players, the tactics, the formation, all the rest of it. So who do you hold responsible for the fact that every time we come out from half time, we're conceding goals left, right, and centre?
I mean, look, the buck stops with Moyes. Moyes will get the credit, but he also has to take the flak. I think what it's showing, mate, is I think we've got a distinct lack of leadership in the team. Yeah, I genuinely do. I think Zuma, and look, this is all with the benefit of hindsight. 2 weeks ago, we're sitting there and everything's rosy. All of a sudden, we've lost 3 in a week, and all of our shortcomings are being, highlighted. I think Zuma doesn't look like a leader to me, and he needs to be doing more as the captain. And we need other players to be showing a bit more leadership. I thought there was a few quite fucking disgraceful performances yesterday, if I'm honest.
Yeah, no, I mean, I actually, in the preview for the Everton game, I gave my opinion on who I thought was going to be the key West Ham player, and it was Kurt Zuma, for precisely the reasons that you've alluded to, in that I thought that, we'd lost our previous 2 games, and for me, it's all very well being a captain when things are going well. Anybody can be a captain when you're winning games and sort of getting results and all the rest of it. For me, though, a captain really shows their worth in times of adversity. Now, 2 games lost, we're going into a home fixture against the team, as you said it yourself, and this is, I'm not trying to be funny, but Everton Football Club, great football club, but this is a shit football team that they've got presently. I think most Everton fans would say that themselves. So it's really not out of line for me to say that this was a fixture we should have been going into with the expectation of winning. And we need, in that situation, to have a leader, the guy with the armband, the standard bearer, the guy who the manager has said, you are my representation on the pitch. And he needs to really sort of galvanize the troops and show some true leadership. I saw anything but that, Ben, from Kurt Zuma yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he had an absolutely stinking game, but I think, like you say, at the end of the day, he's a centre half. He's got to be showing the leadership and blocking out the goals. But I think there was a lot worse players than Kurt Zuma. But just your question in relation to why we keep conceding second half. He's got to be the one that's trying to stop that.
He's not doing a very good fucking job of it from where I'm sitting.
No, he's not. I mean, I put it on the WhatsApp group yesterday. I don't like having two foreign centre halves. I just don't like it. I look back at all of our most solid defences, all of the real top centre half pairings. You know, not every single one, but when I think back at all the top, centre half pairings that I can think of in the Premier League, one of them is British. Ferdinand and Vidic, Terry Carvalho. Broadly speaking, I like to have a bit of the English grit and determination and communication in there, that when the chips are down, people are standing up. And at the minute, between Zuma and a Gerd, I'm not seeing that.
So you don't buy into this narrative of the fact that you've got a French goalkeeper, you've got a French centre half, and he's partnered by a Moroccan centre half who obviously speaks French as his mother tongue. You don't buy into the narrative that actually the communication between those three should be on point.
Well, whether it should be or it shouldn't be, it isn't, because the amount of goals we're conceding. And yeah, we're an English club. I'd like to have an English spine, a British spine, and we had that with Craig Dawson. Like say, on paper, Kurt Zuma and Naif Agurd are better centre halves than Craig Dawson. But I think we're missing Craig Dawson. And I sent a little thing on paper. Well, unfortunately, the game's played on grass. So
yeah, absolutely. Generally speaking, what were your thoughts on the second half performance? We've obviously said that the first half started reasonably brightly, petered out. What were your thoughts more broadly on the second half performance? I know obviously we lost the match, but what were your thoughts? Did you see any bright sparks in that second half, or was it pretty much sort of just a dismal sort of 45 minutes for you?
But do you know what, Rob? I think it wasn't one of those games where I think the lads look. It was a poor game. It was a poor game. Everton weren't great. We were poor. I don't think it was one of those where you could say they weren't trying. Do you know what I mean? I think, work ethic wise, I feel like people were giving it a go. Do you know what I mean? But there was just something. It would just seem, like I say, it just seemed really slow and ponderous. I think when Antonio, I can't help feel, Rob. I think the buck stops with Moyes, because there's a few massive failings here that how the fuck have we, Moyes has been in charge for three years, I think. Yeah. How have we got, 3.5 years? How are we in a position that we don't have another striker other than Mikel Antonio? Like that's unforgivable. That I get he brought in Haller, that didn't work out. Who knows why that didn't work out? We've then fucking brought in Scamacca, that hasn't worked out. So, but Antonio was awful. If I was giving ratings out of 10, Antonio would be lucky to get a 5. That's how bad he was. He didn't win a header. He didn't hold it up. He fluffed his lines in front of goal. It was an embarrassing performance, right? But then we take him off and we bring on Ben Rama, and then we have to change the whole. Paqueta's up front, but it's like it's. I just feel like that performance is on Moyes. I don't know, in terms of rotation of the team, Kudus might have been better out wide. Paqueta might have been better in the middle. Fuck me. He's the golden boy. And I said it last week. Paqueta was a fucking disgrace yesterday. Some of the things I see from him, right, in terms of diving, right?
Yep.
Theatrics, like the booking that he got, that that bit in the first half where he's passed it and then they nearly scored. He didn't track back. You know, he's a great player when he's on it.
Yeah.
But he is a bit of a luxury player. And when he's not on it, it's like he's better off fucking not being in the team because he's a hindrance more than fucking help.
Well, he won't be in the team against Brentford. He's fucking banned. Same as the other Herbert. What's his fucking name? Alvarez. They're both out of the Brentford game.
I mean, look, I don't want to come here on this show and be negative, but it's difficult. It is actually really, it's really difficult to find a positive slant on that performance. Generally, I think hats off to Aaron Cresswell. He hasn't played much, but he come in and he didn't put a foot wrong. Yeah, he might not have been the most attacking fullback you've ever seen, but we know his legs have gone a little bit. They didn't get much change down his channel. I think Cresswell put a decent account of himself. I thought Kudos tried hard, but it seemed like every time he turned, he seemed to have two men on him, or he was being fouled or whatever. And actually, contrary to a few comments that I've seen, I actually think Bowen. I don't think Bowen had a great game, but he was constantly trying. I think he was constantly trying, but it wasn't coming off. But with Bowen, he looks like he does show a bit of leadership. That when the chips are down, he'll stand up and go, "I'll get us through it." But he can't do it all on his own every week. So, those were the three that stood out. I thought Ward-Prowse and Alvarez looked very poor, and I just couldn't put my finger on it. What I felt, they were taking so many touches with the ball, but central midfield, get the ball, bing, keep it moving. It was like 2-touch, 3-touch, 4th-touch, then pass it back. It was just fucking, and I think your central midfielders, they kind of set the tone for the team performance. If they're getting on top, passing it quick, moving, then the tempo of the game is going to be quick. But it didn't show that, and I think what yesterday looked like is that we've only got one way out to play, and that's on the break. Yeah, and when we want to sit back and hit teams on the break, we can be a good side. But when the onus is on us to go and dominate possession and create, we couldn't do it yesterday.
Yeah, I agree. You've obviously mentioned Kudus, Bowen, and Cresswell as being the three, and I'm not going to say standout players because I don't think that would be sort of like quite as far as I'd like to go. But I think that they were, in my opinion as well, they were probably the three players that I would say can come out of that shit show yesterday with any sort of credit in the bank from the starting 11. Rest of them, I think, are going to be. I'll be honest with you, mate. I think if we had a proper squad, and I can't remember who I saw it. It might have been Hughie Southern from Claret and Hugh. I can't remember who it was, but it was a comment I saw in the last couple of days. And I thought, he's hit the nail on the head there. He turned around and he said, we've basically got a starting 11 and reserves. And that's where we're at the minute. And it's like, for that reason, I sort of sit there and I think, those other players who basically let the team down, as far as I'm concerned, a lot of them are probably assured of their place in the next Premier League game away at Brentford, obviously barring Paquetá and Alvarez because they can't play, they're banned. But everybody else, you sort of sit there and go, okay, well, who's reasonably going to replace the lot of them? They're probably sort of like sitting there going, it really doesn't matter.
I mean, Rob, I think we spoke about it at the weekend, and I was kind of echoing what you've just said from Hugh Southern. And look, it sounds like I'm bashing Moyes, yeah, but I feel like that could be right in that it's like Moyes doesn't know how to keep a squad happy, and that it's like he'll grind. And this, I'm just talking about this season. Last season it was all right, yeah, but you can only talk about what's happening in front of you. And it's like Moyes' strategy this season is grind the starting 11 into the ground,
Yep.
but then disillusion the rest of the squad so that when they do come in, none of them perform. So it's just fucking. It seems so counterproductive that the job as the manager is to keep the whole squad happy. So at the minute, it doesn't look like Moyes is doing it.
Who was the star man for Everton, in your opinion, Ben?
I think I touched on it, mate. I think that Branthwaite. Fucking that. Do you know what? I think he looked an absolute beast. He looked massive. He looked massive. He looked quick. He looked really aggressive. I think, to be honest, all of Everton's defence played pretty well. Calvert-Lewin got the goal. I don't think he'd done an awful lot, really. He didn't look that threatening, but
I thought he worked quite hard, actually.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I think he did. He scored a good goal, but it was just that young centre half that really caught the eye for me because I've not actually seen him before. And like I say, I think he absolutely owned Antonio. So yeah, I think he's got a bright future. I think he was on loan at PSV last season, so he's obviously learned his craft there and developed well. But yeah, it wasn't a great game, to be honest, Rob. Both there was no real standouts in midfield from either team. It was just a workmanlike performance from Everton, and a bit of a to be honest, mate, Pickford probably only had one decent save to make, and that was Ben Rama.
He also made another one just before that, didn't he? I think was that from Bowen. I'm not quite sure. There was another save he made as well, but that save I counted was in the 78th minute. I'm like,
and that was offside. Yeah, and that was it was offside. So it was decent enough, but it wouldn't have counted anyway. So I mean, that is like I say, even when people say, "No, we done all right in the first half," yeah, we didn't really have a shot. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
no, nothing on target. And we got to 90 minutes, Ben, and we had, like someone put in the chat earlier, 64% possession. And this is what I always say to people. It's like, look, possession in and of itself, I'm actually not too fussed about. It's what you do with the ball. It's your quality in the final third that's going to see whether you actually manage to sort of do something and get the 3 points. And so it's proved here, 64% possession, 2 shots on target in 90 minutes.
Yeah. And I think it just looked to me, like I say, I think the thing that sort of, I think he might have took Antonio off with half an hour to go. It was probably after about 60 minutes. And when he brought Ben Rama on, mate, honestly, I just knew, even though Antonio was having an absolute stinker, I just knew we weren't going to score. Do you know what I mean? Because I thought we're bringing on deadbeats to try and get us the game. And to be honest, when the final whistle went, it weren't like I was mega angry because it was just a miserable day. It had been pissing down all day, and I just thought this is a classic game where we get nothing, but we've just got to wipe our mouths and moves on because, quite frankly, that's 3 losses on the spin now, right? I know, one was in the Europa League, but we've got Arsenal on Wednesday, which, quite frankly, you're probably looking, based on form and the fact that it's Arsenal, we'll probably be lucky to win that and not lose. So all of a sudden, that's 4 losses on the spin. I don't care who you are. If we're going to Brentford having lost against Arsenal, that's a must-win game for Moyes' managerial career, because 5 on the spin, don't matter who you are. If it was Guardiola, his head, people would be calling for his head, let alone David Moyes.
Yeah, absolutely. Just on that, Ben, as it says there, do you think that the final score was a fair reflection? I personally think it was.
I do, mate, unfortunately. I think, like I say, Areola didn't have too much more to do. I think they hit the bar, albeit that might have been offside from memory. But to be honest, mate, as the home side, only really having one shot of note that would have counted, I don't think we can have too many complaints that we got done yesterday. It wasn't like we was unlucky. If I'm totally honest, I just think it was a bad day at the office, and we've had 3 of them in the last week, so alarm bells are starting to ring a little bit.
Absolutely. Any final thoughts before we knock it on the head?
Only that, mate. Yeah, like I say, I think it's this week is a big week, mate. It's all of a sudden we're hearing murmurings of good young talent like Mabama's not start signing a contract.
Yeah.
Off the back of 3 losses, all of a sudden, you know, what started off as a really good start to the season is unraveling fairly quickly. And, you know, old Moisey's given it the big one before when he's people, you know, what he goes, well, what I do is I win games. Well, you need to fucking do that pretty lively, mate. Otherwise, you're going to be down the Kermit pretty lively.
Yeah, he probably will be. Ben, I'd like to thank you for joining me on this broadcast. And for you guys that are watching at home, please don't forget to like, comment on and share this stream to your social media platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. Hit the bell icon for alerts for new content. And don't forget to click all. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you very much indeed for your support in this matter. We will be back for the Arsenal preview, which is going to have to be tomorrow at some point. But we'll have a chat about that off camera, Ben, just to sort of see how we go with that. Guys, please don't forget also to give your support to the Iron Supporting Food Bank charity, and we'll see you next time. Come on, you Irons, and stay safe. The West Ham Massive are pleased to support Iron Supporting Food Banks. They are a group of West Ham fans and friends inspired by the work of other football food banks around the country. They collect food and cash donations for a Newham food bank in Beckton, who supplies 7 distribution centres in the borough 7 days a week and hand out several hundred 3-day emergency food packs every month to families in need. They are also working with other groups to improve conditions for vulnerable adults and children in the Newham community. You can help by making a donation to their Just Giving page. You will find the link to this in the description section of the video details in this stream. Thanks for your support. Come on, you Irons.